The most critical developments in the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie revolve around three baffling facts: the open back doors of her home, the complete absence of a missing vehicle on the main street, and the FBI's sudden, quiet return to the rough desert land behind her property. For months, the public and the media have focused intensely on the front of her house, assuming the answers lay on the paved roads and under the glow of streetlights. But what if we have been looking in the wrong direction all along? When investigators return to a specific, unforgiving location months after a person vanishes, it is never without a reason. The FBI is currently re-examining the dark, uneven pathways that border the Tucson neighborhood. Could the person responsible have bypassed the neighborhood cameras entirely by slipping away on foot? In the next few moments, we are going to carefully examine the physical evidence left inside, the implications of the severe monsoon rains, and a deeply unsettling theory involving a public figure named Savannah. But to understand why federal agents are quietly walking that treacherous desert path today, we must first look at a glaring anomaly found inside the house on the night she vanished, a detail that changes the entire trajectory of this mystery. When an individual vanishes from the safety of their own home, seasoned investigators immediately look for disruptions in their daily routine. In the case of Nancy Guthrie, the initial reports presented a deeply concerning picture. Her personal vehicle remained parked in the driveway. Crucial personal items, most notably her Apple Watch, a device capable of tracking movement, health data, and location, were left behind. We must ask ourselves, could someone willingly leave their home, intending to return, without taking these essential items? Or does this point toward a sudden, unexpected departure? Furthermore, reports have mentioned a small amount of blood found at the scene. In any investigation, a minor trace of blood could easily have an innocent explanation, a simple kitchen accident or a minor scrape. We cannot jump to conclusions based on one isolated detail. But investigations are built on patterns. When you place that physical finding next to the disheveled condition of her bedroom, the narrative begins to shift. Could there have been a struggle? Or was she taken completely by surprise? We will explore a specific theory about who might have had access to her inner circle shortly, but first, we must address the most critical vulnerability of the house itself. Reports suggest that on the night Nancy Guthrie disappeared, the open back doors were discovered unsecured. Think about your own nightly routine and the care you take to lock your doors. Why were these specific doors left open? Did Nancy open them for a reason, or were they left ajar by someone else? Could the person responsible have used those very doors as their silent, unseen exit into the night? This question becomes profoundly important when we consider the neighborhood's layout. If an intruder exited through the front door, they would be forced to navigate well-lit streets, neighborhood security cameras, and open lines of sight. But the back of the property offers a vastly different reality. It opens directly into the rough desert land. This brings us to a major, glaring gap in the evidence. In nearly every case of this nature, investigators eventually identify a getaway car. Yet, in this case, there is no confirmed missing vehicle tied to the disappearance. No suspicious truck on a traffic camera, no idling sedan captured by a neighbor's doorbell. If there was no vehicle waiting on the street, how did the person leave the area? Could they have vanished on foot, stepping out of the open back doors and dissolving into the pitch-black desert? That thought alone is chilling. But as we transition into the realities of navigating that specific terrain at night, a new question arises, one that might significantly narrow down the list of individuals investigators are looking for. The rough desert land behind Nancy's home is not a gentle, grassy park. It is a harsh, unforgiving environment filled with sharp cacti, loose rocks, and sudden, dangerous dips in the earth. During the day, one can see the narrow, winding hidden paths that connect different parts of the neighborhood, paths that longtime residents say local children used for decades. But at night, without the glow of street lamps, this terrain becomes treacherous. Imagine trying to navigate that landscape in total darkness. A stranger, completely unfamiliar with the area, would almost certainly stumble. They might snap branches, tear their clothing, or make enough noise to wake the neighbors. Therefore, we must ask an objective question. Could a person move through that land quickly and quietly without leaving a trace? If this rough path was indeed used as an escape route, does it suggest that whoever was involved possessed a deep, pre-existing local knowledge of the neighborhood? Could the person responsible have known exactly where to step, which routes avoided motion sensor lights, and how to reach a secondary location where a vehicle could be hidden far from cameras? This concept of local knowledge is precisely what makes the FBI's recent return to this exact spot so compelling. Federal agents do not simply wander through the desert months after a crime for no reason. When they return, it usually means something has shifted behind the scenes. This brings us to a critical timeline marker in this investigation: the 6-month mark. Around this specific time, several threads in the investigation appeared to move simultaneously. But what exactly prompted this renewed activity after months of public silence? We will look closely at a controversial piece of communication that might hold the answer, but before we do, we need to understand the investigative process itself. In major investigations, cases often move in waves. There are periods of intense, visible activity, followed by stretches of agonizing silence. But for seasoned detectives, the quiet times are not empty. They are often when the most meticulous, painstaking work is being done behind closed doors. The FBI does not announce every lead, nor do they publicize every laboratory result. If they were to reveal a new theory too early, they risk tipping off a suspect, allowing vital evidence to be destroyed, or improperly influencing the memory of key witnesses. Therefore, when the FBI is seen physically returning to the rough desert land, we must consider that they are acting on newly processed information. Could a laboratory result have finally come back? Could a hesitant witness have finally come forward to describe a sound, a shadow, or a strange figure moving through those hidden paths on the night in question? This leads us to one of the most highly debated elements of this case: the ransom notes. Publicly, there has been much discussion regarding written communication associated with this disappearance. While we must treat all unverified documents with caution, the science of forensic linguistics plays a massive role in modern investigations. Experts analyze notes not just for what is being said, but how it is being said. They study wording, tone, grammatical choices, and structural patterns. A writer can try to disguise their handwriting, but it is incredibly difficult to completely hide one's natural phrasing or deeply ingrained spelling habits. Could the ransom notes have contained a specific, regional phrase, or a structural habit that pointed investigators back toward someone with ties to the immediate Tucson area? If linguistic analysis created a new profile, it could explain why investigators are suddenly re-evaluating the physical pathways behind the house. They may no longer be looking for a complete stranger. They may be looking for someone whose written words betray their connection to the neighborhood. But words on a page are only one piece of the psychological puzzle. Detectives also rely heavily on behavioral evidence. When a tragedy of this magnitude occurs, investigators meticulously document how individuals in the periphery react. Did someone connected to the case suddenly alter their daily routine? Was there an unexplained, sudden trip out of state? Did someone exhibit an unusual, obsessive interest in the investigation, or conversely, an unnatural avoidance of the topic altogether? Of course, we must look at this objectively. Human beings process trauma and stress in vastly different ways. Avoidance can simply be a coping mechanism for grief, and intense interest can stem from genuine fear. We cannot, and should not, equate unusual behavior with guilt. However, when highly unusual behavior aligns with physical geography, digital footprints, and the timing of a disappearance, it becomes a powerful indicator for law enforcement. Could someone's behavior after the fact have drawn the FBI's attention back to the rough desert land? As we layer these pieces together, the ransom notes, the behavioral evidence, and the missing vehicle, the significance of the open back doors grows exponentially. The house itself acts as the starting line. If something terrible occurred inside the bedroom, resulting in the Apple Watch being left behind, the open back doors suggest the trajectory of the exit. It forms a direct, physical line from the interior of Nancy's private life, out into the untamed desert. This is why physical route testing is so vital. Detectives cannot simply look at a map in a brightly lit office. They must walk the ground themselves. They must stand by the gate, look out into the darkness, and ask, could someone carry something heavy through this brush? Could they do it without a flashlight? Could the person responsible have made one microscopic mistake? This brings us to a complex and deeply unsettling layer of the investigation that we must approach with care. It has been noted that Nancy had connections to a highly visible public figure named Savannah. While this is purely a working theory, investigators are obligated to ask difficult, uncomfortable questions. Could Nancy Guthrie have been targeted not for anything she did, but because of her connections to Savannah? In the modern era, visibility brings both influence and danger. If an individual was attempting to access or send a message to a person of higher profile, could Nancy have been a tragic target of opportunity? If that were the case, investigators would be sifting through a massive digital footprint, emails, phone logs, social media interactions, and online tracking data. Digital forensics can take months to process properly. Did a digital breadcrumb, perhaps a location ping that bounced off a local cell tower, or a deleted message recovered from a server, lead the FBI away from their computer screens and back into the dirt behind her home? If the digital evidence pointed them back to the physical terrain, they would be facing a landscape that has fundamentally changed since the night Nancy disappeared. Could the changing weather have played a vital role in this renewed search? Tucson is known for its intense, transformative monsoon rains. These heavy, sudden storms do not soak gently into the hard desert soil, they rush aggressively across the surface. They create temporary streams, carving new grooves into the earth, moving rocks, and washing topsoil downhill. The desert is not a static crime scene, it is a living, moving environment. Is it possible that the recent monsoon rains unearthed something small that was hidden during the initial search? A dropped item, a torn piece of fabric caught on a cactus needle, a distinct footprint preserved under newly shifted mud? Or conversely, could the rushing water have washed an item out of the thick brush and into plain sight? When agents return after a change in season, they are often looking for the very things the earth has finally decided to give back. Whatever the exact reason for their return, the message to the public is clear. The silence of the authorities is not a sign of defeat, it is a tactical, calculated quiet. They are listening, they are retesting the rough desert land, they are analyzing the ransom notes, they are evaluating the behavioral evidence, and they are looking for answers. They are painstakingly walking the ground that everyone else took for granted. As we look at these complex, intertwined details, the open back doors, the perplexing absence of a missing vehicle, the perilous rough desert land, the monsoon rains, and the quiet, persistent work of the FBI, we are left with a puzzle that demands careful, mature reflection. Cases of this magnitude are rarely solved by sudden, dramatic confessions. They are solved when someone, somewhere, notices a detail that everyone else has overlooked. You, our viewers, bring a wealth of life experience, wisdom, and sharp intuition to these discussions, and we value your perspective immensely. When you consider the layout of that neighborhood and the complete lack of a getaway car on the main street, what does your intuition tell you? Do you believe the person responsible relied on local knowledge to use those dark desert paths to escape unseen? And do you think the recent monsoon rains may have finally uncovered the physical clue investigators have been waiting for, or do you believe the answer lies hidden in the wording of the ransom notes? Please, take a moment to share your wisdom and thoughts in the comments section below. Your insights often highlight angles and possibilities that even seasoned detectives might appreciate. If you found this analysis respectful, objective, and informative, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel. We are committed to following the Nancy Guthrie case closely, bringing you thoughtful, logical updates as soon as they become available. We will not let her story be forgotten in the silence. Thank you for your time, your keen attention to detail, and please, stay safe.